Wow, Miklos, this is a full house, standing room only, pretty impressive. I think we're in the biggest building we can be in Budapest. Thank you very much. Presidents, prime ministers, legislators, congressmen, including from America. Prime Minister Orban, thank you for inviting us back to your country. We appreciate it very much. It's so appropriate that CPAC begins with prayers. Prayers from ministers, prayers from a rabbi. Why is that important? In America, we believe in this saying, God bless America. We say it so often that we've forgotten its value. And what's the value of God blessing a nation? It means a nation can do amazing things if it doesn't become in conflict with what God wants. Now, I'm not a preacher. I'm involved in politics. But I've learned a lesson, which is when a country becomes hostile to what God wants for his people, that country is not going to prosper very much longer. And in America, the heart of the struggle for civilization comes down to a realization that yes, we're in a political struggle, we're in a cultural struggle, but the center of that is a spiritual struggle. Why are we here? Why did God create us? Why do we want to raise a generation of children who will be happy and prosper? Why do we want these things? And what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of not understanding the spiritual nature of the battle we're in? The opposite of that is fear. Try to make you be scared and fearful of what government can do, what globalists can do, what can happen to your family, what can happen to your business. So when you read about what's happening in America, you might think that America's turned against itself and doesn't understand its birthright. This is a lie. And this is a lie that is repeated over and over again in a propagandist press that wants everyone, including Americans, to believe that America hates America and wants to become a different country. This is a tool that the left, the Marxists, the communists, the socialists use to try to make good people fear standing up for what is right. So what form does that take in America today? Well, we can see it, and it is scary. First thing is the death of truth. Where does one find truth in America? We can't find it in our media. We increasingly can't find it in social media. Anybody who speaks the truth is almost immediately silenced. And then this man, Elon Musk, came walking in from over on the side of the stage, and we refound a little bit of that freedom. And so a pushback begins. What's the second piece of this spiritual assault in America? The second piece is, if you stand up for anything, if you stand up for Donald Trump, if you stand up for our Constitution, if you stand up for families, you will be indicted, you will be taken to court, you will be over-regulated, you will find yourself in legal jeopardy almost immediately. As Mercy, my wife, and I were getting up this morning before we had our first cup of wonderful Hungarian coffee, which is the best, we read about new indictments in the state of Arizona. New indictments, fresh indictments against those people who stood with Donald Trump in the last election. This seems to be an unceasing problem to bankrupt Americans who are patriotic and to destroy any hope of them being successful in the private economy. But I also want you to know something else. Within this spiritual battle, there's a good guy and there's a bad guy. And the good news is the good guy is a lot more powerful than the bad guy. That's right. But on this world, it can seem like the bad guy has more power at times. And that's part of the struggle we're in. In America, you should know, much like in so many of your countries, the left went too far. They got too cocky. They thought the bad guy was actually in charge. And they made some fatal errors politically. The first error they made is to underestimate the support and the popularity of Donald Trump. They thought they could destroy him, take his money, and now they hope to put him in prison to take away his security detail, etc. Second mistake they made, they opened up the border. 165 countries sending some of the most hardened criminals into the southern part of our country, destabilizing our major cities and our communities. Huge mistake. Dangerous for all of us who are trying to stand up, but they went too far and they woke up a lot of people who usually aren't that political but are worried. Third thing, they went after our kids. They went after our grandkids in the schools. They tried to teach them that God created them with one of 62 genders, and that their parents and their grandparents are racists, and that America's a rotten country and a terrible place. And the center of this mal-education is on our college campuses, where the hatred of anti-Semitism is spewing out into the streets, where Jewish students and professors can't even feel safe. These were mistakes the left made because they miscalculated where the American people are. And why did they miscalculate? Because our polls are fundamentally wrong about where the American people are. The media is propped up by the left to spew lies, and it makes it very hard to figure out what's really going on. You know, in the Bible, they talk about Jesus asking his disciples to spend 1 hour with him in the garden before he had his great trial. And what did the apostles do? They fell asleep. What's happened in America is millions of wonderful people in the last 25 years fell asleep. They fell into a stupor. They didn't realize how aggressive the left would be. But the left was so aggressive that we've been woken up. We've been woken up from our slumber, from our coma, from our stupor. And you should know that as fear has gripped America, the virtue of hope is now overtaking fear. And you can take my word for it that America in 2024 will re-elect Donald Trump. Thank you. Who will then close down our border, who will protect our children and our grandchildren from these terrible and false ideologies. America will once again realize that she needs to be great, because we all know this in this great battle for civilization that we're going through in all of our countries, that if America falls, freedom is not far behind. Our job in America is to stay focused on our country and to first win the election, and then to remember that we have a great cause to fulfill. And part of that cause is to work with all the freedom fighters from around the globe to make sure that we beat communism in all of our capitals in the next couple of years and beat them forever. So I want to say specifically to Prime Minister Orban, we talk about the size of America and the size of Hungary in population, in economy. Okay, those things are important, but that's part of it. There's something bigger. The spirit of the human being in the individual, the courage of the individual. What Hungary does for America, for Americans who love America anyway, is you provide a wonderful example that sometimes it's not about how big your economy is, it's not how big your population is. It's about your mighty ability to stand for what's important. And so all of you here, but especially the Prime Minister, Miklos, the wonderful allies here in Hungary, you're giving this inspiration to the people of America. The people of America are going to stand up by the millions to stand up for those values and to re-elect Donald Trump. And together I feel great hope for what we're all going to be able to do together. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.